Introducing
Real estate people.
Hey, we're the Bills! What are you talking about, Willis?
We're the real estate people.
Joanne, thanks for joining us. It's Joanne Lettieri with Distinct Design.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, so glad you're here, and nice to meet you. We've only talked on the phone up until this point.
Right.
Nice to see you in person. And there's a little bit of relation going on between you guys.
We're family.
Yes, they're family. They're not dating, they're family.
Nepotism.
I said it in a way that kind of sounded weird.
Yeah. Joanne's my aunt, and she's added so much value to our experience as real estate agents. In the last 3 to 4 years, we've really been working together.
5, actually.
5 now. It helps our sellers get to where they want to go in terms of price by, making the house look super pretty before listing, and make sure that those showing experiences are good. And then obviously that relates to more offers and happy clients. So, thank you for everything you do to help us get to where we're trying to go on seller transactions.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's my passion. And it creates an emotion. When the buyer comes in, they see the house, they could picture themselves there. And
we see it all the time in homes that aren't staged, right? When buyers come through, they peek into rooms. When a house is staged, they walk into the room.
There's definitely some psychology going on there. When a house is vacant, a showing is 5 minutes long. They're just yep, room.
Right. They peek in and peer and
yeah.
They don't even look into closets sometimes.
Yeah.
We literally watch buyers do this. When we show buyers houses, we've been watching that for a while. When it's staged, it's a whole different experience when they get in that front door.
Yeah. And there's so many things to think about too when you're staging, right? It's not just the furniture, it's the layout, there's all different things, you're supposed to take down personal pictures and stuff like that.
because you want the buyer to come in and say, oh, I could see myself living here. You don't want them to be looking at other people's stuff.
Yeah.
Who are living
I
in
tell
the
sellers
home.
that sometimes. You don't want people to think that they're invading someone else's space.
Right.
You want them to imagine themselves in the space.
Yeah, you want them thinking about them in that house, not thinking about you in that house. But there's different levels of staging too. Some homes get fully staged. Some homes there's a restage. We're kind of just reworking with what people have in there.
Right.
And you're going through that depersonalization, declutter. And then some homes you're swapping out people's entire furniture and putting in brand new furniture.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And there's also emotion involved. So when you're dealing with the homeowner who has their own stuff in the house, you have to be real careful as to telling them, well, you want to take this out because that's their space.
Get this ugly painting off of here. We're going to replace that. This couch is a piece of crap.
Yeah, you have to be real delicate in what you're saying.
And all you have to do is say one time, oh my God, I hate this kitchen. And someone's like, oh, I loved it. Before you stop making different suggestions around subjective things again, right? Because everyone's taste is different.
100%.
Mm-hmm. So we're in a series right now about selling a home. We've talked about the list price and how we come to that agreement, through comparables in the area. And then we went all the way through the listing agreement with the seller. And then we talked about commissions and closing costs and where all that money is distributed and how it's paid. And in this episode, we're talking about preparing the home for sale, which staging is a huge part of. But let's take it through step by step a little bit, because not only is the paintings on the wall and the decor and the layout of the rooms important, but also below the surface too. So Nick, what would be the first thing when you're I'm sorry, let me back up. Clients always ask me, what can I do to maximize the value of my home? If I redo my bathroom, is that going to make my house worth more? If I do the carpets, they're just, what's going to be the most bang for my buck? Where do you start with that?
Yeah, you bring up a good point, Eric. That is literally the second thing people always say. The first thing is, I want to sell my house. I don't know what it's worth. The second thing is, what could I do to my house before selling my house to maximize my position as a seller?
Absolutely.
And that's it could be a very complicated question, right? So breaking that down, what is the house worth today? And if you do X, Y, and Z, what's the house worth when it's done? And that's really where the value of a good, professional comes into play. There is making sure you're making improvements that you're going to get the good return on investment for prior to listing. Staging is something that always returns investment, because even if it doesn't make the house sell for like an insane amount more money, it makes the house sell quicker. And quicker is more money in real estate, right? Lower days on market, the closer you sell, or the closer you sell the list price or beyond it. But getting very good with people about, hey, do this carpet, do this wall prep, prime paint, and don't go crazy breaking that kitchen. You got to know where the boundary is on each house, prior to doing any work to it, based on the market that you're in. You can't over improve a house in general, and you definitely shouldn't over improve a house prior to listing it.
Right.
Well, can we talk about what are the most important things that you would tell a seller to do before you get to the decor and the staging?
So make houses mortgageable is the first thing, right? Because when you don't have a house that's mortgageable, you have a shrunken audience of who can afford to buy that house, right? Because you can't get financing, say. So always looking at roofs, peeling paint, always looking at, like, banks require there to be working kitchens and working bathrooms, that there be no like open areas without drywall or plaster. So just making the house mortgageable, and then how pretty are we going to make it prior to, that curtains up stage, which is like the reveal of the house to everybody, right? Curtains up.
Right.
And getting it looking great.
But that's why I love working with Nick, because he does all that groundwork. He does. When he calls you in, consults with you, takes suggestions what he could do, and by the time you're ready to stage a house for him, he's already done all that.
All the prep invisible
in the
stuff
background
is done, right? The mechanics and the roof, if that needs to be taken care of, if it needs to be taken care of.
Yeah.
And then all the way through, like, leaky faucets, all the little things that you'll notice about a house. Is the toilet just running? Are the doors squeaky? Right? Floors squeaky, stuff like that.
Yeah, you got to protect that house. Like, that sale is going to get to a home inspection, get to an appraisal, and any of those issues that are going to come up down the road, deal with them at the beginning. And then there's the seller's not renegotiating price through the transaction if you prep it right. And then, when you walk into a house, like, most people scan things left to right? So they start up in the upper left of a room, and then they scan it across. So
is that true?
Yeah, that's how people read. At least in the United States,
I didn't know that.
That's how it is. It's how we read, right? We're all...
Well, I know how we read, but I didn't know that
well,
was
that's
like
why I think, because we're so accustomed to reading left to right that our brains start naturally scanning things left to right. So just notice that next doorway you walk through, just start paying attention to where your eye looks first, because it's kind of like this visual scan. So as you make these scans, as you enter these new spaces, like, how does that look, right? And isn't that important when even picking out bedroom furniture?
Oh, 100%.
Like, when you walk into somebody's bedroom, are you walking into a bed, or are you walking into a space where you could actually get into the room, get left to right, and not be stuck by obstacles in front of you?
Right. Wow. So, Joanne, how did you get into this industry? What's the origin story, real quick? And then we'll talk about, I really want to hear your expertise on how to stage a home, how to prep it for the sale.
Well, Nicholas is the reason I got into this field, because he had a house on Niagara Street, told me he wanted me to come look at it, threw me in there, said do whatever I wanted to do to stage it, to sell. So
you were grabbing trinkets from all of our family members' houses.
Furniture from my house, my nephew's house.
That was Jacob's house on Niagara Street. Shout out to Jacob Basher, one of our first investors and good friends now.
That's so cool. What made you think of Joanne?
So growing up, Joanne's house was always beautiful, right? All the stuff she had in her house, the way the furniture worked and everything, she was just like the queen of decorating. And when we came into the situation where this house that needed some decorating, the first person was Joanne. And from that moment on, she's crushed it every single time and exceeded our expectations, and more importantly, the sellers.
Yeah. And now Distinct Design is growing and expanding. I was just asking you before we started shooting, where do you keep all your stuff? And you were saying you have some storage,
4-car garage, and looking for a warehouse.
Everything is spread out. You're looking for a warehouse, which is incredible. It's amazing. You're growing.
It's also incredible how much warehouse space has increased over the last few years.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
So
This
people
time,
are getting like $10 to $12 per foot for unheated warehouse space.
I know, even the life storage is ridiculous at this point,
So you have 4-car garage, your garage,
right?
and you're just
And another
constantly
storage
moving
unit,
stuff
yes.
from place to place.
You must have some kind of good list of where everything is because you're like, wait, where was that dresser? Oh shit, it's in the other one.
Yeah, it's all in my head.
Nice. Well, that's how he operates too. A lot of
Yeah.
times. Just-
How much does it cost to stage a house?
It
Approximately.
depends on the house and what needs to be done. Anywhere from $1,300 to, 2,200, 2,500, depending upon the house, its size, what I have to do.
Yeah, sometimes like it makes sense to only stage the first floor. You don't always need to like stage all the bedrooms, all the living
Right.
spaces. Sometimes it's just like a couple rooms, or it's a restaging of someone's space, like redecorating what already exists in somebody's house, which Joanne is super helpful at doing those type of deals too, where they're not full-blown staging jobs. But it always helps because that showing experience is going to directly relate to the number of offers that you have on any given house. And the staging ensures a quicker sale with, more people bidding on it.
Right.
and even deeper into that, like the first impression you would think is walking into the house and seeing it, but the first impression is actually those pictures.
Right.
If you have a house that's really nicely staged and the pictures are beautiful, you're going to get more people to actually walk through the door to have that first time experience, like in person, seeing the house.
Right. And you can't, that first time somebody walks in a house, you can't replicate it. So that first time walking in is that feeling. They're never going to get it again, right? So you got to hit them right when they come in.
Yeah. What about if somebody already has like a ton of stuff in their house and they want to get it staged or they need some help, but they want to use their own furniture? Are there options for people like that? I think stage sometimes is like, completely cleared out vacant home and then you come in and decorate the whole thing.
Right, but I have gone in and cleared things out. You just tell people, what needs to be taken out, what has to go. Sometimes I add things. It all depends on the house, the situation. Every house has its own story, right?
Yeah.
So it just depends on the house.
Okay. And I don't even know. I don't even know what to ask. I'm thinking there are so many different situations, so many different people, and a lot of times there's resistance. When I talk to a client and I recommend staging, they say, I don't want to spend the money on that.
That is and the way I look at it, staging is the last step before listing your house. And I always say it's as important to me as redoing a bathroom because, people come in, see it, it creates the emotion. Oh my gosh, I could see myself living here. I love this house, have to put a bid in on this house, right? But at that point, a lot of people I do work with a lot of people who do flips. By the time I come there, they've already spent so much money prepping the house that they don't want to spend that additional, $2,000 or less, right? Mm-hmm. But then they get it back tenfold on the back end.
Yeah.
It gives you an opportunity too, as a seller and as a listing agent, to control what you can control. Some things throughout this process are out of our control, but we could control prior to listing the house how someone, is going to potentially feel, while walking through it and making sure that's an elite experience. That's what this is all about. Like, and you guys said it earlier, like people are seeing these homes online. And as long as you match that in-person showing with what they felt when they saw this thing online, they're going to bid on the house. And the staging makes sure that the people that come through that are ready, willing, and able are bidding.
Right.
And it's we see it every time. Like, there's a direct correlation between the houses that we have staged versus unstaged. And it's not always our decision to stage. So that's why we don't stage every house. But there is a direct correlation to list price, to sale price for staged versus unstaged homes.
Right.
I sold a house in Kenmore. They allowed us to go in and stage the whole thing. And it sold for way higher than list price. And everyone loved it. We had so many showings. While I was putting the sold sign on that house, the neighbor came out. And we started talking, and I ended up listing their house as well. They found out how much the neighbor's house sold for. They wanted to sell too. That was the first time for me, pat on the back, selling the neighbor's house. But they have all their own furniture. And they did some work. They painted a room, but they didn't really stage besides like cleaning up and, you know, making it look as if company was coming over. And I saw a direct like difference in how many people walked through that house and how many people offered on it and what the actual sale price was. The house is
compared to the one right next door.
Right next door. And it's not like one house was way bigger than the other or one had more bedrooms or bathrooms. They were in Kenmore, where I live. The houses are very similar. You know, I mean, pretty much same layout, pretty much same house, and one sold for a lot more than the other one.
And one
way
was
more than the
staged and one
$2,000
wasn't.
they spent on staging, for sure.
And staging is very valuable too to people, especially when they recently completed construction projects, right? Because when you walk into a house that's renovated and there's nothing in there, the buyers and the agents are going to be very picky. Oh, they just renovated this kitchen, but they forgot to put up the shooter on the tile.
It's the only thing to look at.
Yeah, or like,
Right,
hey, they forgot
exactly.
to put caulk like between the backsplash and the countertop, or whatever small stuff exists. That staging like takes people away from picking out all of the imperfections with a home by giving people that opportunity to be emotional because of how you've decorated this house.
Right.
Can we talk paint colors a little bit?
It's my favorite.
Yeah, let's get into it. Because I have a person who just wanted to sell a house, and they're like, "We just painted our kitchen this beautiful blue." And I walked in, I was like, "Holy," and
Should
I
have
had
went
to
with the cream.
right. I had a delicate conversation with them, and they actually ended up painting. But can we talk a little bit about paint colors?
Yeah, subtle color, obviously, very, a tint of color, if any, but use the same color throughout, right? We've done this a lot of times because the paint looks different in every single room depending on lighting. So you have this, so it looks uniformed, but it looks a little different in each room depending on the lighting situation.
Huh. Do you have a favorite color? Like if somebody says, well, what color? I don't know.
No particular favorite, no.
You should have a favorite. You should brand a color.
something like off-white, but it's the same concept too with like painting all the interior walls the same color prior to showing. As like, you ever walk through a house and there's like 7 types of flooring throughout the house, like different color carpets in each bedroom, different type of flooring in the hallway than bathrooms, and creating that uniformity just...
Well, that cuts up the house, makes the house look smaller.
Right, that's
If you have one color, one continuous floor, the
it
space
just
appears
flows.
bigger.
That's
it
the left
flows.
to right flow.
Correct.
Right, where you're not getting stopped every time you walk into a new space because there's something different as you go through.
That makes a lot of sense. If every room was a different color, then you're processing the color in every room that you're going through. If it's all the same, you're not really thinking about
And you'd
color.
be surprised, a lot of people, like I have been in homes where people say, oh, I like the house, but I don't like the color of the walls. And then they walk, well, that's a quick fix. But a lot of people think painting is just like a huge undertaking, and they're turned off with the house because of the colors.
Yeah. Which goes back to that psychology of a showing. When somebody walks in, you want them to have the best possible experience and have the most memorable time there where they'll want to offer on the house. And this is all stuff that just helps to get people there.
Yeah, it helps get them in and it helps get the contracts for it. You just went and looked at 385 Ruskin, a sneak peek coming on the market soon that you're going to be staging. A little ranch on Ruskin and Amherst. And our conversation with the seller is like, the guy wants as close to 400 as possible. 400's probably going to be tight. But if we go up at 350 and he preps this house the way he's doing it now and does the staging, we're still going to list it at 350. It's not like, oh my God, it's staged. We're listing this at 375 or 400 now. But being at 350 stage is going to guarantee that result closer to 380 and probably get us closer to 400 by doing this type of work. So you're not increasing the list price like tremendously because you staged, but you're securing that seller's position being X amount of dollars over that list price.
Yeah, you're increasing the want of the property, right?
Yeah. So let's say, I've represented a fair share of sellers, and I've had, I think, 2 people stage a house. So I don't know what the percentage is of people who actually follow through with staging, although I recommend it to everyone. Can we give some tips to sellers who aren't going to, go the whole way of staging a house, but they want to prep it? One of the things that we tell people is to open all the windows, like the drapes, get as much light in there as possible. What are some other quick tips that somebody could do to make their house look a little better without getting it professionally staged?
Right.
Paint the walls one color.
Exactly.
Paint the walls, maximize light.
100%.
What about like hardware? You know, like in the kitchen, you're not going to do a whole kitchen, but maybe you have some like old
Upgrade
dirty
the knobs and
hardware.
Hardware,
Yeah,
yeah.
paint cabinets, update the hardware. That's a great idea.
100%.
What about, we talked about pictures and stuff on the wall, like personal pictures or things that you really like, but not everyone might like. You might have like some kind of clown doll collection or something, and you're like, this is beautiful. And everyone's like, what the hell?
Yeah, put that stuff in boxes.
Yeah.
That decluttering is so big. I mean, a lot of times people are living in the home that they're going to be selling. And you got to take that away. You got to change that perception from this is Eric Arneth and his family's house to this is a house that we could see our family moving into.
Remember, my sister decided to sell her house in Kenmore double. Remember, on Hoover? And she, like literally overnight. So
Did we stage that house?
I went in and just used her stuff. We used her stuff, but I just went in and took out so much stuff because it was a little 900 square foot. You know,
you got to get all that extra
so
stuff
we took
out
all
of there.
that stuff out, and it just opened it up, looked
Yeah.
great, and it sold for a lot of money. Remember?
Yeah, just by moving stuff around, like, because think about like I was in a house yesterday where I couldn't even open a door because there was drywall on the other side of it. Do you know what I mean? So that's that same kind of concept of like something's blocking you from something you're trying to do. You know, get into that foyer of that house, and that's still the same concept of like walking into a room and not like feeling what you should feel because there's furniture or whatever that's just blocking you from being able to feel the space.
Like I have vision, and I love doing this. This is my thing, and being creative. But I walk into places, and if it's cluttered, I literally get disoriented myself, and that's what I do for a living. It's like you need a blank space or a space where there's not so much stuff coming at you at once, right?
Yeah.
Where it's confusion. If somebody walks into a house that has stuff all over the place, it's just like they don't know, like you
Right.
said, they don't know where to look first.
And where do you put your couch? How do you set up your living room? Like that depends on how many walls you have, right?
Right.
Where can you position this couch and like this furniture so that somebody like can really use all the like square inch of a space to enjoy it, like.
Right.
And you could start to tell people that story by how you place furniture in a home.
Yeah, there's got to be some kind of effort for staging. You might not want to pay a couple $1,000s to have it professionally staged, but like go on Google or Pinterest or something, look at what other people have done. Call your aunt or your sister whose house just looks better than yours for whatever reason.
Right.
Get some advice from them on how you can set stuff up. And what about like, so basically you just want to get anything personal out, right? So you're left with furniture, nice decor, right? Any boxes. It's not just cleaning like companies coming over. It's getting as much stuff out as possible, even if it means getting a storage unit or something like that.
Right, or put it in your garage.
Put it in the garage in a nice organized way.
Yes.
That's a hard conversation for us to have with sellers.
Oh,
Like,
for sure.
and I love to be able to pass that to Joanne and say, Joanne, get this thing perfect for us. Like,
Right, because she's a professional.
and we've even walked through houses with Post-it notes and like just started putting Post-it notes on all the things that we wanted
Right.
out of that house prior to taking photos and just keep it out of the house until the end.
Yeah.
Because it really makes a difference when selling somebody's home, how people feel while walking through it.
Right.
You know what the biggest shocker is for people? You could have a house that's like beautifully staged and looks amazing, and you're like, I need to see this house, and you walk in and you're hit with like cat piss. You know what I mean? Like that's a shocker for people. So that's another one too, right?
Yeah.
Like odors.
I've used plugins.
Yeah.
I went and looked at a house the other day, and I called the guy. I said, listen, whether you use me, you don't use me, first and foremost, you have to take care of the smell,
Yeah.
the mildew, the whatever, because the house is older to begin with, and now you're walking into a house that's not really aesthetically pleasing or beautiful to everybody, and then you're hit with the smell, and it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be
yeah.
smoke. It could be animal urine. It could be like
Mold,
just
mildew.
or stale furniture, like
Yeah.
or people that just don't pay attention to cleaning as much as
Like
others.
that dusty, like where
Yeah, like
everything
old
feels damp.
laundry-ish smell or something.
Yeah.
It seems like.
yeah.
Yeah. I actually had some buyers. I loved them so much. We were like best friends by the end of it. We would walk into a house, and if it smelled, the wife would go, nope. And she would turn around. She wouldn't even look at the house.
very sensitive.
She would wait in the
knows that
driveway, and
life.
the husband would be like, "Come on, babe, like give it a shot." But yeah, smell is a huge thing.
Oh, 100%.
All right, well, Joanne, how can we get a hold of you if we want to send people your way? We want people to hire you, obviously, because you do such a good job for us for all these years. Where can we find you?
Well, I have a website, distinctdesign.space, and
All right.
also my phone number, 716-906-1222, or
All
on
right.
Facebook.
Facebook
Distinct Design.
You just Distinct Design. It'll come up.
Or my name, yes.
And it's always worth the conversation. You know, as you like, you have the same mindset as us. Like, we'll go out there, we'll give our opinion. If someone chooses to move in a different direction, it's not personal.
Right.
It's just business. Like,
Exactly.
we're not going to hold this against you if you think there's a better person to help you execute your desires here.
Right.
But it's worth a conversation because there's something to learn from a meeting with Joanne. The same way there's something to learn from meeting with a few different realtors, you know, before choosing who's going to help you sell your house.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, one more question. So if somebody didn't want to pay for the whole service, but they wanted just to get your expertise, let's say they didn't have a sister or an aunt, do you offer services like that? Where you'll just go in and consult with someone?
Yeah, paying consultation, just a consultation, all, you know.
Yeah. So we got
Just what we do.
options.
Yeah, I love hiring Joanne too. Like, Joanne comes in on a lot of flips that we do personally, and she comes in and picks paint color, cabinet color, countertop color, fixture color, hardware color,
Nice.
and like provides that little service just so that we're not like going crazy in our minds with like what color cabinet should we install in this house.
Right.
Right.
Let a pro designer handle design, and all good things start with good design
Yeah.
or distinct design.
Ooh, nice.
Oh, that was
See what
nice.
you did there. And then the final thing, you have it staged. Take good pictures of it, please. You know, don't use a flip phone to take pictures. You know, you've gone through all this trouble to stage the home, do all this work, and you're going to take crappy pictures. You got to make sure that they're beautiful pictures that capture the essence of the house.
It's
so that you draw people in.
$170 to get professional photos.
Yeah. And I mean, we pay for the pictures for people, right?
Yep.
So yeah, there you go.
No more agent in the bathroom mirror photo with
Yeah.
their iPhone.
Or worse.
Yeah,
I've seen worse.
Seriously, like take a picture with you in the mirror. Like,
No, dude,
I've seen it.
I
I know.
remember when I started doing this 7 to 10, or I think 10 years ago now, professional photos were not on every single listing in this market.
yeah.
But now I would say professional photos are on probably 90% of listings.
Right.
Yeah.
So you lean on these professionals. There's different people that have different strengths and different aspect of this whole thing. You know, lean on your team and lean on your network. This is a team of people helping people execute their desire.
Absolutely.
Which has always been your thought from day one, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's an expensive transaction. How do we provide as much value as possible prior to asking somebody to pay us 6% to help them?
Well, look at the house you did on Linwood. How many people did you have?
Yeah, Lynn, there's so many great examples of houses that we've staged that just exceeded the seller's expectation because of how much attention to detail went into that listing.
Well, you had
prep.
painters, you had everybody, right?
I mean, yeah, we have agents on the team right now that are literally flipping houses for people prior to listing. That title is still in their name, but we're helping them like manage that whole scope. I mean, you were at Greg's house on Colvin the other day. That guy's like fully renovating this person's father-in-law's house, you know, prior to listing it because we're going to control what we can't control and get as close or as much money as possible for people's assets.
Yep.
That's the job as a seller, like maximize their position, stage the house, prep
100%.
the house.
Well, Joanne Lettieri with this Distinct Design, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your help.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Helping us do
Thank
our
you
job.
for everything.
Appreciate you.
Nice meeting you.
See you later, everyone. Right? We're done. Bye.
One of the most important parts of listing a house for sale is getting really good real estate content. Now, getting good real estate content can sometimes be different than getting just regular content that would be promoted on your social medias. So the group that does this every time as best as possible, whether you need camera, drone, Matterport, floor plans, you got to give the team at 360 Views a shot for all of your real estate content. I mean, they've been grinding in this market for 7 years now, and they really had impact in this market. You know, prior to them, not everybody was doing professional photos, and now as a consumer, you get to see professional photos on most of all the houses you're looking up on Zillow.
Yeah.
Big shout out to those guys at 360 Views.
I was going to say, before you said it, I mean, 100%, they've changed the game in real estate photography and marketing in the area. Like you said, we had talked about, back in the day, there'd be an agent taking a phone picture with their flip phone and you could see him in the freaking mirror.
Yeah.
And they just stepped up the game so much that now it's almost an anomaly to not have professional pictures. And they are the ones that do the vast majority of them in the area.
Yeah,
they're professional, they're fun, they're great at what they do.
And great leverage. I haven't had a conversation with the seller about how good or bad the photos were since I started hiring them 7 years ago.
Definitely.
Great leverage.
And they have a ton of different services. They do floor plans now. They'll do virtual staging where they'll add, furniture to the pictures themselves. Blue sky type stuff. If you take pictures on a cloudy day, they'll make it look like a beautiful sunny day and not in a cheesy way. They do great work. What's their website?
And turn around photos in less than 24
Less
hours,
than
which
24
is super
hours.
important
I know,
as
it's
a listing
crazy.
agent. 360views.net. Give Jordan, give Tony, AJ, Russ, Sarah, Nick Lunetta. They've built their team, continuing to expand, and they got it going on.
TSV.